time. You're my favorite lover. You make my day. Hi, I'm Earl Whitaker, and you're listening to The Show with your media maven, Michelle Turner, on WNHH Radio, 103.5 FM, New Haven.
That's so nice. Shout out to Earl Whitaker and all he does. That is wonderful. Harry, where'd you find it? Because I thought we lost it, but great. I'm glad you got it back. And I'm glad to be back on the show. Miss Rona made a huge disruption in all of our lives, and mine included, in a lot of different ways, and including the show not coming back on the air for a few months. But we're back, and we're going to be talking to a lot of different people over the next few weeks. The show is on bi-weekly at 1 o'clock live, 1 to 2, right here on WNHH 103.5 FM LP. And we will have some very interesting guests coming up in the next few weeks. In addition to that, I'm going to get my stuff to work. I had it all set up. I bought my stand. I bought my light, so I have good lighting and people could see me. And guess what? The device decided it didn't want to accept Harry's Zoom request. So it's not on Harry. It's not on me. I'm blaming my device. At any rate, the first guest to come on during this pandemic season, if you want to put it that way, is New Haven's own artist extraordinaire, Katro Storm. And Katro and I are going to discuss, and we're going to try to give a solution too, because it's not so much that you come up and talk about the problem. It's also about having a solution. So we want to talk about racism and the arts, specifically Black artists, and the difficulties they go through in producing art, getting spaces, and just really being accepted seriously as an artist. So Katro Storm, welcome to the show. Good to have you back.
Thank you. It's good to be back.
You're New Haven.
Can you hear me?
Yep, I can hear you fine.
It's good to be back.
I'm glad that you could be here on such short notice, because I had so many things going on last week. So I didn't get the opportunity to reach out to you in enough time. I'm going to put that up front. So thank you very much for coming on today. So let's kick it off by saying, what do you see, or what have you experienced as an artist when it comes to your race?
Well, I see, as far as the art scene, there's not a lot of people that look like me. The higher up I go, I'm not sure if it's people people of color aren't interested in getting involved with the arts. I'm not sure what it is, but for whatever reason it is, there's not a lot of Black people. Well, it's not balanced, I should say. It's not a lot of people involved in New Haven's art scene. It's just not very balanced.
Well, when you say the higher up you go, the less people you see, what do you mean by that?
Well, I used to teach kids from 3rd grade to 6th grade at Lincoln Bassett. Mm-hmm. And there were so many talented kids, and in the school systems, I've seen, a lot of talent, but, once I went to college, there weren't a lot of, Black people that were, in art school, and there's not a lot of Black people in, New Haven's art scene. on the level of displaying artwork, like at galleries and, museums, or, things on that caliber?
Well, we'll talk about Titus in a minute, because I think Titus is part of the solution. But for you, how have you, I'll back it up. In your experience, has it been blatant? Has it been subtle? Has it been a mixture of things? Can you give some examples?
Well, the thing for me is, like, when I went to art school, I don't think a lot of my friends were interested in being artists. And, art school was probably 90% white.
Mm-hmm. Do you think it's still that? Are you not seeing
as far as visual art, I think so. I don't think it's not cheap to go to art school, and that's one thing. And then, there's commercial arts, like, graphic design or illustration or something like that. But, when you dive into the art world, there's really, like, no safety net. So I think a lot of people don't get into the arts because, there's no guarantees involved. As far as, if you become a lawyer, you pretty much, you're going to be able to provide pretty well for yourself, become a doctor, so I think people are thinking, something like that, something like maybe a plumber or electrician, those are pretty solid jobs. I think the art world is a little trickier.
And are there sponsors?
Well, there's grants. I'm sure there's people that sponsor artists, but I haven't come across any.
Nobody's giving you that offer?
I haven't found it. No one's given me. I've had people give me opportunities to make money. That happens. But as far as the arts, I just, I don't have all the answers as far as, as far as why there's not more Black people that are interested in the arts or being seen in the arts, or, but I do know that there's a lot of talent in New Haven. A lot of people don't know what to do as far as to get themselves out there. I've been doing this for, well over 30 years, and, it's very tough for me, very tricky, but, I think any art form is pretty tricky, but whenever you add color to it, I think it gets a little more complicated.
Well, I agree with you. I think part of the solution may be getting those kids who really are interested in art and really have a talent, especially in visual art, and supporting them in different ways, be it scholarship, be it fundraisers, be it, turning out for their art shows. I think that's part of the solution, because like anything else, and I think you would agree, if you don't see yourself in those spaces, then it's very hard for you to either pursue or take it seriously. And like you said, the other piece in it is, how am I making a living? I think for a lot of kids, they don't see artists who are thriving. And that goes across the board. I mean, either you're on your way up or you're at a certain level and you have to take on other types of employment to keep yourself to keep yourself alive, surviving, making money.
Right. I think the art world also is a lot like baseball. Like if you think of the Negro leagues and then you think of the major leagues, the Negro leagues had a tremendous amount of talent, but the major leagues had a tremendous amount of money. But
right.
The Negro leagues, a lot of the players had to play deep into their 40s to kind of sustain themselves because they didn't really make a lot of money playing baseball, except, they had a lot of fans and they had, they invented a lot of things as far as how we see baseball now. There's,
Right.
I think hit and run comes from the Negro League. A lot of pitches, a lot of things come from the Negro Leagues. They were, before they integrated a little more.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think when it comes to the arts, I don't know if our community is still well educated when it comes to things like galleries, when it comes to things like visual arts. Would you agree or disagree?
Definitely agree. And, the funny thing about it is, I've been with kids that are talented, that are artists, because I mentor kids a lot of times. And you'll be surprised at how many kids have never been into the gallery. And I tell you, museums and galleries, a lot of times they're very intimidating. They almost feel like the second you walk into the door, they want to know if they can help you. What are you doing there? And, sometimes that turns people off. There's a lot of kids that I've met that have never even been in the art store because, those places are very intimidating sometimes for people. It's just, I think it comes down to like, how do you expose people to things that they haven't seen, haven't been exposed to, it's like whenever it comes to like sports and stuff like that, at one point, basketball was predominantly a white sport, boxing was a predominantly white thing. And, and also bicycling was a predominantly black thing. I mean, white sport. And, there's people like Major Taylor who, kind of opened doors, where the doors were closed at one point. He opened doors. And Jack Johnson, when there weren't any black boxers, he opened doors.
Right.
So, it just needs somebody, that can open doors and, and then bring it back to the, to the hood, so to speak, because when you see heroes, when you see someone like Barack Obama become president, you understand that it's possible I can become president. When you see someone, maybe when you see someone that's an artist, that you can reach out, touch, and say hello to, you understand that, look, here's someone who's doing it, I could do it. But it's pretty tricky because, I've been doing this a long time and there's still like a lot of doors that are closed for me. There's a lot of people who just step into this art world and all of a sudden, they got grants, they got scholarships, and they don't even have a track record. So, I think, there is some, I don't know if you want to call it racism, but there is something about the art world that, it's hard to get involved in. I mean, I've been doing this, I'm in my 50s now, and I'm still, struggling to, get my work represented the way I would like it to be represented. I would like to be represented by a gallery, but it's not that easy.
So what does it take though? What are the steps? Like you said, you wanted to be represented by a gallery. So what would you, Katro, have to do to get to that point?
Well, one thing is, you have to produce artwork at that gallery's level. You have to be at a certain standard as far as like, I go to a lot of galleries, and if you're going to get involved with something, you have to see what's out there and then be willing to put yourself out there, and then also be willing to take lots of rejection.
Yeah.
Major Taylor, who was, the first sports superstar, he basically had to sneak into the races. He had to come in for a bike race because they didn't allow black people to race back then. It was strictly for white people. And
Yeah.
whenever Major Taylor, he got a sponsor, and the guy snuck him into the race. That's how he first got into the race. And, and Jack Johnson, when, boxing was all but pretty much white, he showed up at the boxing matches and, pretty much was telling the guy he was scared of him and the guy decided, I'm not scared of you. And then he let him fight, and that's how he got his fight. So I'm not sure I have all the answers. I'm still searching. I'm still searching. Sometimes I get discouraged, but I feel like this is my purpose. This is what I'm put here on earth to do. So, I make it my business to try to paint every day and see as much art and be seen, and make sure people know who I am as much as possible.
Mm-hmm.
Another way that I see people getting out there is a lot of times people do murals. People get out there and they if they can't get into a museum, they sometimes they paint right on the wall, legally or illegally, to express themselves. So it has a lot to do with just putting yourself out there, trial and error.
Well, don't you think part of the issue, though, is that we don't have a lot of galleries that may hold on to our work? Like in the larger cities, you have small galleries or you have small collections. Like, I know in LA, there was a woman who had art in her house because there was no art gallery in her neighborhood. I know, I can't think of his name. His name escapes me now, but he was someone who started out in his mother's hair salon and discovered in papers and decided he was going to use in papers as artwork.
I don't even know what in papers are.
Yeah. And in papers are when you have a hard curler or just curlers.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
To roll your hair.
Right.
He took in papers and made artwork out of it.
Wow.
He is one of the top selling artists, not only in LA, but globally. When I think of his name, I'll text it to you.
Please do.
He ended up buying the buildings on the block, not only where his mother's shop is, but like 2 or 3 blocks. And one is where he does his artwork. So it's interesting because, too, the people in the community were like, is he really making all that money off of curlers in papers? And they had to go and see his art. And so once they got the display or went to the gallery and saw the art, then they were like, okay, we get it. But they're also very proud of him because he remains in the community.
Yes, that's very important. Just having examples in the community. We have a few, local artists that have, definitely risen, but I don't know what I was about to say, but
well, I mean, we have the smaller galleries. Titus Kafer's gallery down the street on Henry Street is fantastic.
So is that open now?
It's open. It's limited. You have to check the hours, but it's open because I've had a couple of friends who have been in there since let me see, about 2 weeks ago, probably.
Yeah, Titus is really an incredible artist, and he's had a lot of good breaks. I mean, he's didn't he get like some national endowment for the arts or something?
Yeah, he got a MacArthur grant.
Yeah, and he went to Yale. He chose to stay and live here in New Haven, which I think is very important. Maybe he's our Jack Johnson. Who knows?
I think he is our Jack Johnson in the respect that he's got a lot of young people involved with the gallery. I went for the grand opening a few months back.
Young people that are Black, or
young people that are Black.
Wow, I'm gonna have to go check that out.
Yeah, you should. It's and the interesting thing is, I know that the neighborhood was not crazy about the building that was going on to redo that particular space. Because there were times they couldn't park and things were blocked off and the noise. But now that it's there, it's one of the old factories. It's a glass blowing factory. It used to be. And it's less than a block from Hill House. It's like you cross the street, cross a block, and you're right there. And, it looks out at Gulf Street Park. What's more New Haven than that?
Well, exactly. Also, the Q House is right around the corner. The new Q House that they're building, the Stetson Library is right there. Yeah. So I mean, that's a pretty good area as far as getting young people exposed to it.
And I think I was happy in the respect that it's a real gallery. It's not like small rooms or, you got a corner here or, you got things that are kind of close together. It's a real gallery. It has real space. You can walk through it and get a sense of what the artist is trying to express. So it's definitely worth going to see. And it's definitely worth being proud of, not only because it's a young Black man, but because of where he decided to put it. It's not downtown.
No, it's right up the street from the Hill House. So kids walking to school and walking home from school every day are going to be walking past his gallery.
Yep. And there have been young people working there. He's had young people working there. So it's really to be commended that we have this and that it is something that, is not created by a Yale or a private entity in the respect that, is somebody who decided they were going to spend millions of dollars just because, I want to help the minorities. It's one of those things where it is there purposely, and it is to give the community an idea, not only a vision of what can be done, but what they can do.
Right.
And that makes a difference.
And Titus's artwork is You know,
is
he's out
amazing.
there. It's
Can we
amazing.
talk about, I mean, that Sally Hemings portrait haunts me every time I see it. Every time I see it. And I just, you know, I just, it just says so much.
It does, but you know what I think is, you know, equally as important is if more people in the community could see his work. You know, a lot of people have indirectly seen his work because his work has been on Time magazine's cover a couple times. But you know, if people can connect the man to the artwork to the location, I think that would, you know, that would do wonders for the community, because a lot of people in the community don't know he exists. Because there's a couple serious artists in this town, like, you know, Wilfred Rimper is another seriously talented artist that's, you know, from New Haven. He lives in Newhallville, and his work is in museums all over the world.
Wow.
I'm not sure if you're familiar with him yet, but I will send you some links to his work, because he's pretty serious.
Please send me some links and I'll share them as well.
Yeah, but it's, you know, how do you get opportunities like Titus's? I mean, I know that he went to Yale, but, you know, a lot of kids are not going to go to Yale. A lot of kids are not going to be able to afford to go to Yale. A lot of kids, even if they could afford it, might not be accepted to Yale. You know, but they're still going to be artists, and they're still going to have that passion and that fire. And, you know, it's, you know, Titus is one gallery. He can't, you know, he can't house for so many people.
Right.
I mean, I go to art openings often, and, you know, I don't see a lot of people of color. Like, how do we make things more balanced? So, you know, where the, you know, some of our, you know, local talent can, you know, get some exposure in some of these galleries.
Well, I think that's part of it. I think the other thing is we have to figure out how we engage young people in this art, right?
Well, we do. I mean, I talk to young artists in New Haven at least 6-7 times a week. I'm always, you know, giving, you know, artists some direction and advice, and, you know, and helping them get over certain issues that they have all the time. I mean, that's, you know, that's something that I do. But, you know, a lot of artists, you know, once they get a body of work, you know, they, you know, it's just tough getting out there. I mean, there's just not the same opportunities for young Black artists. You know, Titus is, you know, very fortunate. You know, he definitely was extremely talented, and he had a lot of support. Because Yale, you know, Yale is one of the, you know, is very powerful.
Yeah, but here's the thing. So we have to find those avenues, right? Not only one like you, but for young people. Because if we don't find those avenues, then we don't have what it takes to make people artists and believe that it works, right?
Kind of, but what are those avenues? I mean, does that mean that, you know, Black people should only be showing their work at Black establishments? Where'd you go? Oh. She's not there.
You don't believe that Amazon.
No, I'm here.
I can't hear you. Hello?
I'm
Oh,
sorry, I had a sound issue. But I think when you're trying to decide what it is that's going to work for you, right?
not just me. I'm
But
just one
I'm saying
person.
to the collective.
I want the playing field to be even, kind of how it is in sports right now. I'd like to see, I'd like for people to be comfortable to go into art stores. I'm pretty welcomed in art stores, but I know some people walk into art stores and get followed around, so they prefer not to go into art stores. I know that museums, you know, they don't follow me around as much as they used to, but I know museums make you a little uncomfortable if, you're not familiar with, you know, being at museums. They don't really make it welcoming. They kind of look at you like maybe you're going to, I don't know, touch a painting or something. I don't know why they follow you around, but they don't make you very comfortable. A lot of people don't even know it's okay to walk into an art gallery.
Well, I think part of that though is Katro again. We have to find a way to get our young people in those galleries, whether they're comfortable or not. We have to find a way to expose them to that. Because if we don't, then that's what happens.
Well,
And
I think it's 50-50. I think a lot of places don't want you in there, and a lot of people don't take black art serious, period. A lot of people, when they see your artwork, they want to put your artwork in the Negro League, and they
yeah,
don't want to put it in the major league where you can get paid at. They want you to go somewhere else. They don't want you in their gallery.
yeah,
A lot of places. I'm speaking from experience. I know that in the past, in the 90s, I once had a white friend of mine pretend they were me in order to get my work into an exhibit. We laughed about it, but those are issues that are happening. It's a lot of people aren't that they don't. A lot of people don't take black artists that serious. A lot of establishments right here in New Haven, you know,
yeah,
you know, they'll go find the type of black person they want to deal with so they can have a black person in their camp. But, as far as opening the doors and, having people, in their offices, working for them, they don't look a lot like me, you know, and it's I don't know if you remember that H&M when they had the T-shirt design that had the monkey on it and the
yeah,
black kid.
yeah,
That might not have happened if they had more black people on their staff. And
right,
I'm saying if the art world had more black people working for them, there'd be more black people appreciated because, people have different taste buds.
right, right,
Artwork is sometimes, artwork is a lot like potato salad. There's two different flavors going on sometimes. Some people like it made this way. Some people like it made that way. Some people potato salad is yellow with eggs in it, and some
right.
people have raisins in it. But you know what I'm saying. But the art world is, the
Lots of
people who
reasons.
decide, the gatekeepers at the art world, need to be a little more balanced, a little more diverse. When you have, you know, one group of people that are deciding what is appropriate or what is at the level of their gallery, it's going to keep people turned off. I mean,
Yeah,
how
no,
often do you go to galleries?
yeah. But I think the other piece in that, Katro, is again, we have to start putting our kids in those spaces. And we also have to make sure that those who are the gatekeepers get the gate rattled. The gate has to be rattled. And we have to make sure that they know and understand how who we are and the talent that's out there. I think if we rattle the gate enough, heck, take down the gate, then those gatekeepers either will have to go or they get replaced with more people who look like us.
Yes,
I think,
because
that's part of the solution, right? Besides us opening up our own.
we definitely need to, go to galleries more often and bring children so people can be more familiar with, no, we're not gonna harm the painting. We know how to
Right.
look at the painting with our eyes, because I know sometimes when I go into the Yale Art Museum or the art gallery, I know they follow me around because I think they assume that I might not know gallery protocol and I might want to touch a painting or something. I don't know why they follow me around, but
Wow.
I know that we have a long way to go, but thanks to people like Titus, people like Obama, people like Major Taylor, people like Jack Johnson, I think that because of people like that, those are people who are kind of kicking open the door so we can, be more comfortable in those things. Because at one point we couldn't even, go to school. We had to drink out of a different water fountain. But I don't want to name too many names, but I went to the Educational Center for the Arts, and and that school when I went there was it was pretty balanced. I mean, it was all about the talent, because when you think about it, talent doesn't discriminate at all. Like, you can
Right.
be any color and be talented. People kind of look at you. When people look at you, they assume things sometimes because that's all they know. Sometimes all they see on the news is black crime. So when they see black people, they might clench their pocketbook a little tighter. Not everyone, just some people. And the same sort of thing happens when you try to approach an art gallery. They might look at you and say, this is our world and we're not ready to let you in right now. It's just a tricky thing that, we are chipping away at, but I just wish it was a lot more balanced. I wish there was a lot more balance, not in terms of just artists, but the people who, controlled the art world, like the people who were involved. I know that the Whitney revamped their whole staff, and now they have a lot of, people of color. A lot more minorities are working at the Whitney, and I think a few other places because of the whole little, Black Lives Matter, George Floyd situation. I think a lot of people, it opened up a lot of people's eyes. I think a lot of people are asking themselves questions, about why is it like this?
Yeah. Well, what's next for you?
What's next for me today? What's next for me a year from now, 5 years from now?
What are you working on now?
Oh, what I'm working on now is exactly what I've been talking about. I'm working on a portrait of Marshall Major Taylor.
Okay.
And I'm working on a portrait of Jack Johnson. I'm working on a bunch of some wedding portraits, and I got a bunch of stuff going on. Some wedding portraits. A friend of mine's mother passed away. You know, I like to do my. I paint every day, and if I'm not working on I'm not doing work for a customer. I'm working on my own personal projects. I'm also started doing some paper mache stuff,
Mm-hmm.
mask and things like that. Uh, that maybe in the future, when I could show them to you, we can talk more about those, because that's a whole nother subject, because I haven't really done sculpture in many years.
Okay, that sounds great.
Yeah.
Well, I thank you for being here today. I
Well, thank you
appreciate
for
your
having me.
interest, Katro. I hope that you get to go see um, Titus.
Titus.
Yeah.
Oh, definitely. You know, Titus popped in one day. I was showing some work at the Eli Center on Trumbull Street,
Uh-huh.
and he popped in. He popped in to visit, and so he is. You know, he's a pretty humble guy for
Yeah.
the big
You
shot that
would,
he is.
you would never know he's who he is.
He's not a bad person. He's a good guy.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm
Uh,
glad that he
little,
decided to open up a space up the street from Hill House.
yep. Very humble genius. Very humble genius indeed.
Definitely is.
I'm going to pack it in.
Okay.
But Katro, thank you again
Thank
so
you.
much
All right.
for being here today, and we'll have you back in a few months. And
Sure.
hopefully I'll have a wider screen and you'll be on a screen and we
Yeah,
can truly keep engaging. Okay?
absolutely. Thank you. Have a great day.
You too.
All right.
Harry, thank you. This has been the first pandemic edition of the show here on 103.5 FM LP WNHH. I'm Michelle Turner, and this has been the show.
Sure.